Flags rustled, headlights strobed the room, and suddenly I was awake at 5:20 in the morning, against my will. I had barely slept. I woke up in a large room with a dozen or more bunk beds, inhabited by strangers in Spain, in a convent. The ancient Spanish monastery made me feel like I was in a leper colony. There was no heat, there were too many snorers, and everyone in their bunk bed had their covers pulled up to their chin, teeth chattering, and eyes peering out over their sleeping bag. I felt like I was traveling back in time, but the truth was, this was day number 13 out of a 40-day trip where I walked across Spain. This epic journey is called the Camino de Santiago, or El Camino, or the Way of St. James. It's a 500-mile path that cuts across northern Spain and ends in a town called Santiago. The story is that after Christ was crucified, James went to this corner of Spain to do more ministry. Eventually he was sent back to Jerusalem and beheaded, but that's another story. In Spain, he went on to become the patron saint of Spain. There was a city named after him in this province by the sea. A cathedral was built, and thousands of people throughout the ages have taken a pilgrimage to this town in Spain. Today I'm going to share with you about my experience walking along this 500-mile path, where the main goal is to eat, walk, sleep, and repeat. People who walk this trail are called pilgrims because they are taking a pilgrimage. There are many places you can begin your journey. I opted to begin in a small provincial town in France, right on the Spain-France border, called Saint-Pelé. Every day I walked between 5 and 25 miles, and I took this journey in the springtime. The grass was bright green, the skies were blue, and the poppies were in bloom. So oftentimes I would be walking through a field and there would just be red, a sea of red on every side, as if a majestic red carpet had been laid down for the King of Spain and all of his minions to have a picnic. I lost my guidebook shortly into the trip, but luckily there were yellow arrows guiding me the whole way through. However, it wasn't impossible to get lost, and this I can tell you from experience. One of my favorite parts about being on the Camino was eating. First of all, you work up an appetite when you spend all day walking. Secondly, it gives your feet a chance to breathe and to rest, to take your sweaty, blistered feet out of your boots and sneakers and let them air out a bit. It also is a time to converse and chat with your fellow pilgrims and hear about their experiences that day. And last but not least, it's a great time to experience new foods and enjoy the local cuisine. My favorite food in Spain was a very simple dish called tortilla de patata. Unlike a Mexican tortilla, a Spanish tortilla is more like an omelet. It's made with eggs and a deep dish with fried potatoes and onions, and served in pretty much every bar throughout Spain, so it was always easy to get a hold of. After all of the walking and eating, the only thing left on a pilgrim's mind was sleep. Most people who are walking the Camino sleep in hostels or albergues that are specially designed for people on the trail. There are 4 different types of albergues. Some are run by the local municipalities, some are run by the local diocese, some are in monasteries and convents, and some are privately run and operated. The price varies, the accommodation quality and the level of comfort varies as well. Many of the places I stayed were relatively inexpensive, $5 or $10 a night. And many of the hostels that were run by the parish would have a sign posted that said, that were run by donation. And they said, whatever you can leave is great, and if all you have is your prayers, then that is enough. There were a lot of reasons why I chose to walk this Camino. Had a lot to do with facing fears. And one thing that I thought was so funny was one of my fears, as I was packing my 8-pound bag with the least amount of things I would need, was what happens if it rains? I don't want to be walking and cold and wet and not know where I am. And they say that Camino, like life, gives you what you need, not necessarily what you want. So it was only 3 days into the trip where complete downpour, I was drenched, it didn't matter the rain gear I had, I was soaked through to the bone. The wonderful discovery that this experience gave me was that once you're soaked, you don't have to worry about staying dry. There are over 200,000 people who walk the Camino every year. They come from countries around the world for various different reasons. For some it's religious or spiritual, for some it's athletic, for others it's sheer curiosity to find out what is this Camino all about. They say the Camino follows fault lines in the earth and stars in the sky, and many people have mystical and magical experiences while walking. Regardless of who or why you walk the Camino, all pilgrims share the same goal: walk, eat, sleep, repeat.